morning, everyone, and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. I'm sorry I was logging in. I always forget to log into the Facebook account so that we could see people in addition to who we see coming on. But good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. It is Thursday, January 4th, and today is Nunca, which is a really, really, really important conversation today. And that's something that we have been talking to you about for, well, I mean, Gladiator Guru says it all the time. So we're going to get into your face about this and really make you face those truths about yourself. Good morning to Gladiator Guru. Her connection is not the greatest. So we're hoping that she can have some decent conversation because we all want to hear about so far how things have been going for her. Can you hear us, Gladiator Guru? Are you there?
It's fine. I'm also signed into the restaurant's Wi-Fi. We just walked into town. It was the very first restaurant, so I'm sorry. But we'll make it work. This is a very important subject. Nunca te engañes, don't lie to yourself. And we're gonna go into it. Let's do our intention because I need my intention. Two opposites sound.
So it is definitely, you're very choppy. Your video definitely keeps freezing. I'm wondering if you shut the video off, if it helps the audio, but maybe not.
No, but you know what? Let me turn off your Wi-Fi and stay at mine.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna do our mantra and we're gonna set the intention while Gladiator Guru is getting on. So remember the mantra. So say it loud and say it proud. I'm gonna do it by myself. We'll get that over with, and then we'll set the intention because I think Gladiator Guru wanted to set the intention with all of us this morning. So let's do are you there? Oh, that's better.
Yeah.
Oh, that's much better. Okay. Let's do the mantra first and let's flip it today and then we'll set the intention because it sounds like you also it's very important for you to be intentional today. That seems like the thing. All right, so let's do the mantra. Say it loud and say it proud. I am a disruptor.
I am a disruptor.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am spiritually grounded.
I am spiritually grounded.
I am magically orgasmic.
Ole.
And I keep it real.
All day, no doubt.
So good morning, Evelyn. Good morning, Tiffany. Good morning, Iritza. So let's set the intention on Viva. Remember, we remind you to be intentional. Make your day intentional. Set a purpose for your day. Could be something small, could be something major. It could be a few things. You could set it this morning and then change your intention later today. But just have a purpose for your day and
do it in gratitude. Every little step you take should be taken in gratitude. Ooh, be grateful.
So tell us about intention. Before we get into our main conversation, how you doing? As we were getting started, you were like you're very tired. So talk to us about the last 2 days for you.
It's been a lot of uphills, a lot of continual walking, 5 hours just walking. Yesterday we did almost 4 hours before we just stopped in a field and we had packed sandwiches. Thank God for Iris because that gave us the protein we needed because we didn't have any before we set out, before all those hours of walking. So we just had some turkey wrapped in because here they sell the bread with no borders. You can buy the bread regular, you can buy it without the edges. So we bought the ones without the edges and we just had half. And then and we just had one half each and one rolled up piece of turkey. And that made all the difference. Just that little bit of protein. And then we arrived around 5:30, from starting to walk at 8:30 yesterday morning. We arrived at 5:30 last night to the albergue. As soon as we came in, the guy saw us, and we're taking off our boots, and he brings us these glasses with caldo, with like chicken soup, but just the soup, nothing in it.
The
Oh
broth.
my God, that was like $1 million.
Oh my God, that's wonderful.
And then we paid for the dinner there because it was, when I tell you, a little town, it's a little town. And so he cooked us. There was an Italian man and a guy from Czech Republic. It was only four of us. We had dinner together. We had wine. We had breakfast this morning together. Everybody set out at different times, but we've been walking since 9:30 this morning until now. We just had a 15-minute break.
Wow.
And it's up, and then it's steep down, and then it's walking on the pavement, which is not good after you've been walking on the dirt trails inside, in the farmland. But this is what I learned. They were killing me the first couple days because I kept looking up, and I'm like, oh my God, another incline, another incline. And yesterday, half of the day, what I started doing was not looking up, just one foot in front of the other. And it wasn't as exhausting. We mentally exhaust ourselves. I would look up and say, oh my God, another incline, I'm going to die. And they just seem to be more and more and more up. And half the day yesterday and all day today, I kept telling Iris, don't look up. And we have our sticks, and we just walked it up. And it was so much easier. So much easier. So that's a truth we got to tell ourselves too. When we look at things right away, the negative thoughts come in. And, oh my God, I don't want to do it. It looks too much, or I'm going to die, shit like that, because you're exhausted. But today I was like, I'm only looking at my feet and putting one in front of the other, one in front of the other. And it was okay. It was okay.
Good morning to my sister Leanne, who's on, who, by the way, it is her birthday today. So happy birthday, Leanne.
Happy birthday to you.
John, wish her a happy birthday. It's also my oldest daughter's birthday as well today. And then later today, I have to message my nephew, whose birthday is the 5th, but he's in Australia. So the 5th will be in a few more hours over there. So I have to message him. Good morning, Natasha is on. We're happy that you're all here. And, Gladiator Guru, I think your Camino is coinciding very nicely with what we had planned to talk about for this month, the awakening. This is the awakening. And today is the second day of Viva for the new year, for the new season. And we get right into it. We're talking about never lie to yourself. And this is something that we want you to embed in your mind going forward from this point, if you have not done so already. Whether you say it in Spanish or in English, this is really important. Anything that you do, anything that you say, anything that you're thinking, you have to ask yourself, am I lying to myself? When you hear yourself telling somebody something about you or your opinion about something, you have to ask, am I lying to myself? And that's where I think the biggest growth comes from, because it's one thing to sit there and say, oh, I live my truth. But if you're lying to yourself, that's not even your truth. When you really ask yourself, am I really being truthful to myself? Am I lying to myself? And you really, really become vulnerable quietly. You don't have to be vulnerable to everybody else, but admit to yourself. That is a very, very harsh reality. I've had to do this. I've done this for years, not knowing that, like not realizing that expression until Gladiator Guru started to really talk about it a lot. But it was more like the last 2 years. This has really been almost a constant, and not even because there weeks or sometimes even months where I would go by and I wouldn't think about it. And then something would happen and I'd be like, oh, damn, you know what? I'm totally lying to myself about that, because you distract yourself. And we've talked about this last year. The reason we distract, the reason we talk about other people, we put other people's problems and focus on them is a distraction, and we distract ourselves because we do not want to face our truth.
And the truth is ugly sometimes, and the truth is not your friend, and the truth will set you free. And it sounds like such a cliche, but let me tell you something. In this month of awakening, if you've already begun, or if you're really going to take that leap of faith towards yourself and learn to stop lying to yourself about people, places, and things in your life, because the people, the places, and the things that are in your life, you chose. So it all goes back to you, right? When you work towards learning how to not lie to yourself, you better pray for strength, because you need to also have the awakening of handling that truth or those truths. See, there's two sides to everything. So, and what do I mean by that? Until you can handle the truth, don't ask the questions. Don't seek something that you're not fully aware or ready to accept. And when you find yourself not ready to accept something, that's when you got to delve deeper into yourself and ask, why do I not want to know the truth? Because the truth, especially when you tell it to yourself, everything has a consequence. Choices have consequences. Um, I've had to face a lot of truths in my life, and I was like, no, it wasn't like that, and it really definitely was. So what I've learned is, and what I've observed, because remember I tell you, I'm a people. I love people watching. My family, sit there and I just watch them, and just everything that falls into place. And they'll ask you, do I look fat in this? I'm going to start with the simplest question, which all women have asked somebody. We've asked our sister, our kids, our friends. We've even asked our spouses, does this make me look fat? And they're looking at you and you're like, I don't know. It looks nice. Be honest. Tell me the truth. And then you're like, yeah, your stomach sticks out. No, it doesn't. That's why I bought.
Yes, right. Exactly.
That's what I mean by be ready to handle the truth that comes to you with your question. Because we have expectations. Well, we'll ask a question. You be honest with me. You better tell me the truth. But you don't want the truth. And that always takes me back to Jack Nicholson. You can't handle the truth. And it might be just a movie, but it is a fucking fact of life. So in this month of awakening, start writing to yourself. What is the truth? What does the truth mean to me? When can I handle it when it comes, or should I start in bits with small things? How does my hair look with bangs? And you already cut it. So why are you asking? But you still ask. And everybody's like, it doesn't look good. Your eyebrows are blah, blah, blah. Oh, whatever. So and so said it looked good. So what the hell you're asking me? You see, so
Right.
if you think about scenarios like that, that's happened with yourself and your family members and your friends, then that's how you start realizing, can I handle the truth? Because you've seen other people with small things that they go berserk, or then they get an attitude. Oh, I don't really know how to cook, but I made this for you. And then you put it in your mouth and you spit it out, and then they get so upset. It's the little things like that. So I'm sure everybody has experienced that. So if you can lie, or you want someone to lie to you over the little stuff, what the hell are you doing with your life? That's what Nunca te engañes. What are you doing with your life if you can't handle a small truth that you already know is true, but you want to pretend it's not? What do you say? Because go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that the other thing that to really, because here's the interesting thing. It really takes a lot of stepping outside of yourself and looking at yourself, and also looking from the inside to really come to the conclusion that you've been lying to yourself. That's probably the hardest thing, because it can't really be taught, because people, when they're lying to themselves, will sit there and continue, well, no, I'm telling you the truth. That's how I feel. And you're on the outside looking, going, oh my God, you're totally lying to yourself. But the key is, if you are the individual who is always looking at the other people, why can't they see that? How come they, when you're coming from that frame of mind and talking about what all the other people are doing, and and noticing how they're distracting themselves and how they're lying to themselves, and how do they not notice that? Stop for a minute and then really say to yourself, is this the message from my higher power saying, I'm letting you notice all these other people so that you could shut up for a moment and notice it within yourself. So catch yourself. That's the first stage, when that to know that you are lying to yourself. When you allow yourself to be very distracted about other people's business, who they are, what they're doing, and then stop yourself and say, okay, wait a minute. I'm talking about that person. Even if you're not talking about that person, but you're just thinking, you have an opinion about them or about a situation, stop what you're doing and say, uh-oh, wait a minute. Where's this coming from? What is my own truth that I am not dealing with? What lies am I dealing with or not willing to deal with? And a lot of times what you see in other people is often, not all the time, but often the ugly lies that we tell ourselves. So if you don't like somebody's personality, that's probably because that's the part of you that you don't like, and you see it in them. So you have to stop and say, oh my God, is that my truth? Is that the lie that I'm telling myself? And I'm projecting it on somebody else, or I'm noticing it on somebody else and just making a big deal about them. I find that whenever I get into a headspace where I'm constantly picking at people, not necessarily out loud to other people complaining, but if I'm complaining about the past, or if I'm talking about what could have been, should have, would have, and I get stuck in a past thing, that's when I have to stop and say, okay, this is a distraction. Like I'm distracting myself worrying about that other person, that situation. What am I not willing to face about myself? And
All
that's when you
day.
have to sit and be quiet with yourself. And it's icky. It's an icky place to be. We're not even going to make it sound like it's not. Good morning, Catherine McFatter. Thank you for being here today. And Nancy Green, our Janice is on.
I know my son-in-law. Hey,
Who
puppy.
else came on? Gwen came on. Good morning, Gwen. We've missed you. Let's see who else. Kathy came on.
Yes.
There was
Well,
a few
I
other people that
would
I
say
missed.
you got to ask, like, if you want, see, I pray for clarity and direction. Every night when I pray to Yahweh, I say, Father God, please give me clarity and direction so that I can hear your message, so that I can see your direction. But with that comes, you have to pray for strength, because am I ready to get that clarity? So clear focus demands strength. So we all are courageous inside. And what the badass Buddha was saying, when we're doing this and we're projecting outside of us and we're criticizing or we're judging and we're doing all the uglies, or we're secretly hating on somebody, because she said sometimes we'll dislike something in somebody because that ugliness is what we have, but we'll also dislike something good in somebody because it's something we don't possess, right? So now you're lying to yourself about disliking somebody because they are doing something that you haven't figured out how to do, or you haven't gotten out of your own way to do. So you don't like somebody because they are where you want to be or what you want to
Yeah,
be
that's
doing.
a hard one.
You haven't
Yep.
gotten there. So I think when we all find ourselves doing that, we have to stop, and because it's all about inquiring within. And if you don't want nobody to know your ugly little secrets of how your mind is always negative and derogative towards other people, get a diary, go old school with the key, and start writing to yourself. Well, today I was feeling like this, and I'm trying to understand my whys. Because obviously, when that pattern has happened season after season after season in your life, you haven't learned shit. Not on, you know why you haven't learned anything? Because you haven't taken time out to ask yourself anything. You haven't sat down and analyzed the woman that you are today. And why are you bringing everything from the past into today? Why are you still angry?
And the man you are today, that's for Henny.
Why are you still angry with the world? Nobody owes you shit. You owe yourself. You want to live abundantly? You choose the path to live abundantly. Today I had a great conversation. Yesterday we climbed El Alto de Perdón, and it was crazy, and we didn't take pictures. So yes, buy a journal from Margie. I hope you're working on it, Evelyn. So when we came down, so this morning we asked the people we stayed at if they can find somebody to take us back up to take pictures, because it's called El Alto de Perdón, the height of forgiveness.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
and they have if anybody has ever seen the movie The Way with Martin Sheen, when they walk up and they're like these bronze pilgrims all up there, and they never show the battle climbing that mountain. Anyway, and so we're talking, and she was 59, beautiful woman, and and she said she's going to a therapist, and she only went once, and she was repeating what the therapist said, and I'm like, damn, she's on the money for her one. The first thing she was like, boom. So I was telling her, Ira said, well, Margie does that. And I said, yeah, well, one of the questions I like to ask, because it stumps a lot of people, is, are you happy? And she goes, no. Like, she answered it, and I applauded her. And I said, it takes a lot of courage for somebody to off rip say no, because that means you know who you are. And she goes, but I also believe you can't be happy all the time because things happen, people die. I said, it's not about being happy all day, every day. It's
Right.
about knowing yourself so intimately that if someone dies, or you lose something, or you lose your job, or you lose your marriage, or you lose whatever, you're gonna feel an emotional sadness, but your happiness doesn't go nowhere because you are happy within yourself, which means that when all of these outside things occur, you're gonna know how to handle it, and you're gonna do it with grace. And she stood back and she was like, I didn't think of it that way. I just would say nobody could be happy every hour of the day. I say happiness isn't that's a facade. That's a lie people tell you. When you know yourself enough to know that you are happy with the woman you have become, and shit takes off outside of you, you're going to handle it accordingly and come back to yourself.
Right.
You're not going to get lost in the bullshit, no matter how sad or angry you are at whatever's taking place. That's being happy, because happiness isn't always walking around with a smile. We've discussed this many times. And that's how it is with not lying to yourself. You're gonna lose people, and but you're gonna gain the right tribe. And if you don't, then you are going to know yourself enough that wherever you go, there will be people that will be attracted to your energy, because everything changes about yourself. So if you don't want to go somewhere and you use your dog as an excuse, like we talked about, or you use your sick parent, or I can't because I got out of work late, ask yourself, okay, maybe I should have just said I don't want to go. Because by you making up all these excuses, or really having those reasons, but having them to have them as an excuse, as well as lying to yourself.
I want to know, and this is the important part about this is that you don't have to speak your truth. You don't have to admit to your lies what you've been lying to yourself about, because it makes you very vulnerable, and it does. You don't have to tell anybody. It's not something that you have to announce. But when you can admit it to other people, and be wise with your choices, admit it to people that won't judge you or throw it back at you, because that's the worst. Because when you are being brave enough to speak your truth and admit things, the if you're not prepared for it and somebody comes back at you with, well, that's blah blah blah, and they put their opinion on you, it's very hard. It could often send you right back into that phase of lying to yourself, because you just want to hide that. But I want to speak what Nancy said. This was, and Nancy, I got to give you credit for writing this. She says, I'll be honest, I'll be up my daughter's ass all the time because she's a single mom and I'm always in her business, and it's a problem. And making a joke of it is the first path to realizing to making a change. You have to realize you have a problem. They always say that in therapy. But Nancy, that's very brave of you to admit that you see that, you know, you yourself is saying that it's a problem. And now, so you have admitted it. Now it's a matter of asking yourself, why do I do that? Why am I up in her business all the time? Why do is it that you believe that she's not capable of making wise choices, that you know better? And then the question comes into play is, why do you think you know better? Because we do this all the time as parents. We get very angry at our children, whether they're young or adult children, if they don't follow our advice, if they don't do it the way we did it, because we know, because we went through it and we learned. But the reason we know what we know is because we went through it. And we don't want our kids to go through that. And instead of saying that, or even when we do, we still have to trust in the process and with God and say, they've got to experience it themselves. And it sucks. And it really sucks. It's very hard to watch your children hit rock bottom or do things and that's going to really set them down. And then especially when your children also decide to blame you for not stepping in. So it's like you can't win. You say something, they get pissed off. If you don't say something and they screw up, they get pissed off. That's why one of the things that I've been getting in the habit of with my children is always making sure that whatever choice they make, they have to live with the consequences. If they choose not to, or they choose to, that they cannot blame anybody but themselves for their choice. Now, there's extenuating circumstances. People do play into certain things. But in the end, like if I make a recommendation and they do it and they didn't like it, it didn't work out for them, I don't want to be blamed for my recommendation. I need them to say, listen, I'm just recommending. It's still your choice. If you choose to do it that way, you have to live with that. And it's such a beautiful way to teach a person, let alone your own children, to the point that I wish that I was taught that way, but you can't go back in time because there's no guilt that plays. You know, how about the notorious, well, do what you want, and then it doesn't work out, and the parent says to you, see, I told you, or, well, don't you feel bad about yourself now? Like shaming and guilting to prove their point. And that doesn't work. And you know what? We've done enough of that. And adults do it to each other. So Nancy, that's huge. It's about coming to terms with it.
Well, let me tell you, and Desiree's not on today. Hola, Milagro. And I just want to read something that I found, and I thought of Nancy and Desiree, and then we'll get to Leanne's because hers is very important. Now this, because as we said, everything always goes right back to you, right? If you want to look at what's wrong, it's usually your controlling ways. And then Nancy, I'm sorry, but then we'll say, well, I'm very selfless and I do everything and I don't understand why they're mad. Hold on, I'm gonna find it for you, I swear.
Well, as you're looking, I want to put what Nancy wrote because this is important. Nancy says, I'm very nurturing and I'm also very selfless. And I have to respect that everyone is like that. It is not like that. So when she takes time for herself, I make her feel like she's a bad mom. So, and listen, I know this because my sister and I were brought up with that. It's like a martyr type of thing. You know, I was selfless. There's an expectation that you need your daughter to be that way too. But we were wrong in the end when we raised that way. When we do everything for everybody, and then we expect them to be selfless, we're just jealous of the fact that they figured out that I have to have balance. That, you know what, I can still be a great mom and still go out and have time for myself. And we have to get past that because that's how I was. I was raised to say, you do everything for everybody. You are dead last. I couldn't go out, I couldn't have a good time. I couldn't go out for myself. I had to be mom 100% of the time. And as a result, it takes away from my own growth. It takes away from my ability to relax and de-stress, which is important for my children. So you, Nancy, it's probably a really good idea for you to start being start doing stuff for yourself. Start, awarding yourself what you haven't all these years. and saying to yourself, you know what, she has the right to balance. I'm going to learn from her because it's important for me to fill my cup. And a lot of us who've done it that way, have been working off an empty cup for so many years. And then have an expectation. It's almost like we say, okay, I'm going to do this for you for all these years. And then I have an expectation is that when you become an adult, you're going to give it back to me. And that's so wrong. I mean, that's what I deal with on a daily basis. Is my big thing that I'm working on is expectations and conditions, like having relationships with conditions, and that's not okay. So
It's
go ahead,
not,
Gladiator.
but it's neither okay to project your fears on her, Nancy, because I think you believe that unless you're guiding her, she's not going to do it right. So you're afraid for her and your grandson. So just let her be, let her go out. And if she's, with the watchful eye, and just, it's hard. It's going to be very difficult for you, Nancy, especially since you've been doing it like all of her life, right? To just take a step back, and you're going to be biting your nails, and you're just going to have to get a stress toy and everything until you can. I'm going to let her fall on her face. If what you're saying has validity, that you're concerned because she's not doing it right, let her fall on her face.
Well, that's actually not, she's not saying it that so much. She's saying that her daughter will do things for herself. And Nancy's like, well, that's not okay because
Yeah,
I
she's
gave, right? I gave, and Nancy, that's so common for a lot
it
of
is.
moms.
It
Very
is.
common.
It is. So don't feel guilty. Now, Leanne wrote something. Hi, Sister Janet. Leanne wrote something, and it was beautiful.
She
I'm
says,
taking
I'm taking a serious look at my life and decided to take full control of my life, which includes removing myself from other people's drama and setting boundaries. I want to continue my healing process and focus on myself, still connecting with those who I love on my terms. You got it right, Margie. Life is too short to deal with bullshit. And then she wrote, in addition to that, the problem we encounter is that we get tired of doing what we do for others and then observe the lack of appreciation or gratitude. It's time to redirect to self. Our adult children need to figure it out of themselves.
for themselves because we sell our favors. The expectations means I'm doing this for you, so you got to do that for me. And we do that with our spouses, with our kids. We do that with people we work with. We do it all of the time. When you hold the door open, nobody asks you to hold the fucking door open, but you still expect somebody to say thank you. That's an expectation. I didn't ask you to hold the door open. So if I say thank you, that's an extra. That's like, oh, wow. And if I don't, you can't get mad at me. I didn't ask you to hold the door open. You chose to do that. And that's how I break down expectations very easily for people to comprehend. So nobody upsets you. Nobody does anything to you that you do not allow. I say this, I say this.
Oh, and
People
that, and
stupid. People mad at me because I'm telling them this. Oh, yeah, but you don't understand. No, you don't understand that man you've been with, that friend you've been with, that your kid who doesn't work and you're supporting all of that because you allowed it. You. So,
okay.
yes, Leanne, come back to you. We got to come back to ourselves. We
So,
really,
I wanna say two things. Is that with regard to what you just said, that is a very ugly truth. Is when we let people do to us, because that is the truth. When somebody does something bad to us, it is because we allowed it. Even if you didn't know for years and it was hidden, but in the end, you had to have known, and that was an ugly truth that I had to deal with. And it's the truth, really is the truth. We allow people to treat us the way we allow them to treat us. If they
Mhm.
treat us with disrespect, that's because we allowed it. If we keep letting them do things to us and take advantage of us, because we allow it. And that is an ugly truth, and that is something that we have. It's a bitter pill, but we have to swallow it. The other thing I want to write is, Nancy says, with my youngest daughter, I'm different. I let her live, but it's because she made the right decisions in her life. Going to call you out on this, Nancy. The right decision for who? You. Your other daughter has made decisions, and the best thing you could ever say to her is say, you could, I mean, if she knows you don't agree with her decisions, you have the right to say, I don't agree with your decisions. But if she complains about her decisions, you say, as long, you have to just learn from them. because that's it, like it the wrong. I've made so many wrong decisions in my lifetime. It's ridiculous, and I still could continue periodically to make a wrong decision. But my decisions, though, the right ones, and what I've learned from them, my mother, if my mother knew half the stuff that went on in my life, my mother would have a huge opinion about stuff, and she would say, "Oh, that was wrong." But you know what? I don't like the decisions my mother's made in her life either. And rather than sitting there say, "Oh, my mother would have never done that," or "Why did she bother to do that?" It doesn't matter. It's in the past. I have to look at it and say, "What did I learn from this?" And it is really hard. It's hard to watch your children make bad decisions that you feel are bad, and sometimes they are. I mean, they could take out credit cards and ruin their credit. They could go like from one guy to another guy to another guy, like all bad. I will agree with you. In my opinion, those would be bad decisions. But you have to sit there and constantly plant those seeds and remind her and say, how do you feel about this? Are you really happy? Is this the life that you had thought about, that you wanted? There's plenty of time to change. I mean, there's not plenty of time, but we can make a change. And if you sat with your daughter and said, look, are you really happy? Like, are you happy with all your decisions? Is this the life that you wanted to live? The only time it becomes a problem is when it's really affecting children. You know, when you're watching your children screw up your grandchildren's life, if you're looking at that going, oh my God, like this is, they have this person over all the time and this, but they're partying all the time. And they're, my grandchildren are seeing this. That's where you can step in and say, I personally don't think that that's a great for those children to see this. So can we work something out, you know? But I've also heard amazing stories from, I mean, I knew somebody whose mother was she was such a massive heroin addict that she would actually turn tricks to get, you know, her fixes. And my friend said she would lock the her and her younger brother was 2 years older. She would lock them in the bedroom while she was doing somebody in the other room. By the time the girl was like 5 years old, she was cooking her brother breakfast. She was because her mother was completely incapable of taking care of herself. And this went on for 5 years until finally, I mean, like her story is just mind blowing of the things that this kid went through for the first like 12 years of her life. It includes, uh, you know, being molested by family members when she was pulled out of the household thinking she was safer. I mean, it was just crazy stuff. So, but she turned out to be a really fantastic mom. She turned out to be a really fantastic member of society by she did everything better than her mom did, you know? And so looking at that, I think to myself, oh my God, I would never want my children to ever go through that. Like I would never want them to have experienced that. But it made
as
her who she was. And her brother too, her brother.
as
Huh?
mothers don't, but we're all born with the purpose.
Right.
You like my parents didn't teach me right and wrong or even the maybes, okay, because they were caught up in themselves. I learned from their actions. I learned from their actions what to do, what not to do, what to tolerate, what not to tolerate, how to build my boundaries. So they were the best teachers of my life without having one day of class. So when you have the story, there's two brothers being interviewed. The man interviews him and says, why are you an alcoholic? And he says, because my parents were alcoholics. What else was I supposed to do? He asked the brother, why are you not an alcoholic? He said, because my parents were alcoholics. So it's really within the individual. And we're so quick to blame what we had, what we didn't have, who did what, who didn't do what. Again, I'm the one that's always going to bring it right back to you because I have to face all my demons. And you know what? There were times when I played with those motherfuckers and it delayed the healing process. So, what you need to do is if you want to say, I want to just, you know what? There's 361 days going forward after today. I want to learn to be gentle with myself. I want to learn to be kind with myself, more compassionate. I want to have an awakening within myself, which means I have to handle the hard paths that are going to come. I might have to jump over little things of water. I'm going to slouch through the mud. I'm going to have to face a lot of things. But in the end, I'm going to know who I am, because in order to rebuild myself, I had to break. And when you stop lying to yourself and you start facing those hard truths, those realities, that you're going to lose people, that you're going to have to separate yourself from people that you love, people that are family, that's when you start breaking. But then when you rebuild yourself, it's like a kintsugi piece of art. No one's going to be able to say anything, and you will not be able to trip over yourself anymore. You would know who you are. You're not going to be feeding off anything else outside of you. You are going to complement conversation. You are going to complement relationships. You will not be the water bearer anymore. You will not be the one dying of thirst, pouring out to everybody else. You will be, they to you will complement, and you will complement others. And when you can do that, you can walk into any room by yourself. You can walk into any restaurant, sit down and order by yourself as people look at you, because you know what you're made of, because you had to break yourself in order to build yourself into the woman that you want to be today, going forward.
Look what
And
Madeline wrote. Madeline wrote, "Are you really losing people? Were they really your people if you lost them?" Yeah, true enough. That's absolutely right.
when I'm losing people, I'm not talking about friends. Friends come and go. It's like toilet paper. I'm talking about, like, you're gonna lose family, you're gonna lose siblings, you're gonna, your parents might not even like you because they've been living a certain way. But yeah, so people who, but that's the whole thing, Madeline. When you wake up to your full potential and you start by telling yourself the truth, so that when you look around, you have clear focus, then your purpose comes to be. And those people were only meant to be the stepping stones to help you crack a little,
Yeah,
to
well,
help you,
that's what she meant. That's what she meant.
so that
She was
when your shell cracks open and you break, that's what they were there for.
right.
And then family, you didn't choose your family. The friends that come into your life, sometimes they're more blood love than your actual family. But
That's
again,
the
you have
truth.
to know who you are to know how to identify that.
That is the truth. Like we're taught that blood relatives, blood is thicker than water. Like you have to be devoted to your family. But if you find that your family does not align with you, and as you've become and gotten you've fallen into who you are, and it doesn't work. Like there's certain people that are very toxic, then you stay away from them, and it doesn't matter what anybody says, because this is the interesting thing about family, but friends could do this as well. It's that manipulation part. And here's a perfect example because of something that Iritza wrote. So Iritza said, "I'm tired of feeling guilty. I'm really working on it. It's hard, but believe me, everyone will be angry. I allowed my children to step all over me." There's a truth, right? That's having lied to herself for years. She's admitting this, but I don't have to continue. Now I'm told I'm selfish. You don't want to help me and my son, then you won't see him at all. So there's a threat. And the irony is this: the individual that is saying that is the selfish one. So when somebody says you're selfish, most of the time, they're the ones that are selfish, and you are interfering with what they want in their life. Because you were if you were the one that, let's say, was the babysitter, and all of a sudden you say, listen, I can't anymore. Now you've put boundaries up. If that person really respected you and understood you, they would say, oh, I get it. Listen, you're right. You know what? I'm grateful for this everything that you've done for me so far. I get it. But when a person is coming at you trying to guilt you, they're entitled, and they are selfish individuals. And it can be thrown back at them. and say, really, I think you're the selfish one. You're the selfish one having the expectation that I should be doing all of this. But the sad part is I hear this all the time. And in fact, I have a friend of mine who's going through this where she is not allowed to see her grandchildren because the parents have an issue with her. And she's like the nicest person in the world. And it's not her, it's definitely them. And it breaks her heart. And I say to her all the time, I'm like, you just, nothing you do, all you could do is just hold that space for your grandchildren and hope that in the near future, when they get to a certain age, they will reach out themselves, and then you will be able to explain yourself to that child and say, this is why I was absent for so long. This is why I was absent for so long. And she's like, but it sucks because I'm missing all these years, and I'm like, I know. But humans, I've really come to the conclusion over the last few days, especially, is humans, we're such assholes, really. Sometimes really are just, we're manipulative. We're miserable. Like when you look at other animals, we don't have that complex thought. They don't have that complex thought pattern. So they don't sit there and think about, like, as your dog is sleeping, how am I going to get back at my owner because they pissed me off yesterday? So I'm going to just stand off. I'm not going to talk to them tomorrow, and I'm just going to ignore them. They don't think that. They're just happy to see you because all they want is, I want to be with you. Period. I love you. I want to be with you. Whereas humans, we get to this, oh, well, you're not going to do that for me, then I'm going to act like this to you, and blah, blah, blah. It's awful. It's just awful. And when we put up with it, when we allow it, it keeps happening because that is what we're teaching these individuals. This is how we're teaching them to talk to us. This is how we're teaching to act to us, because we keep lying to ourselves. Well, if I do this for them, it'll get better. They won't do this as much anymore. If I give them this, they won't ask me anymore. Bullshit. They'll keep asking for more until you just say, you know what, I'm done. You love me, and then you'll love me without me giving you this, buying you this, doing this for you. Then you'll love me. And if you don't, you won't ever say those things to me. You won't ever say that I'm manipulative, or that I'm guilt, or try to guilt me, or try to shame me. And then that's it.
Well, my phone's about to die too. But listen, when not Madeline, when people say, "Oh, I'm missing out on time," because I have a similar situation with one of my grandsons. So, but whose time? See, when you trust in a higher power and somebody bigger than you, and you value your purpose, and you value your spirit, who you are as an individual, when you don't lie to yourself and you accept truths as what they are, when you set boundaries and you don't let nobody abuse you, when you don't give permission to people to manipulate and abuse you and take advantage of you, then time is not of the essence. We are the only ones with the time stamp.
Yes.
Things will always work out. We don't deal with our actual situation anymore. That's what it's all about. Nunca te engañes mean dejen la mierda. Dejen la mierda de esta. If it wasn't for this person, well, I gave my all over here. I bought that house and I had to lose it. When you just wipe the table clean of everything and you're standing firm, that's your point to start. You're actually the wealthiest person in that room, because you let go of everything that was holding you down, people, places, and things, and you're gonna say, this is me, and I'm starting a new path.
Yeah.
And we can do that. We can do that, because you got to live with you.
It includes, we're talking it on a level too, that other people are giving us their BS, but we've given the BS too. And that's the other piece, is that's where we also have to not lie to ourselves. When somebody does hold you accountable and says, well, you did this to me, or you said this to me, and they did, and you did, you have to say, yeah, you're right. You're right. That's true.
But tell me, why did it offend you then? Because if I offend you without purposely saying, oh, you're just ugly, blah, 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 because I want to be mean. But if I said something like, why are you always doing that? And blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to say, you hurt my feelings. You were being mean. But why? I'm asking you, why are you doing this? Because now
But I'm
That-
saying it with regards to if you are being the mean person. Like if you've
oh,
decided, you know what, I've been an asshole my life. I don't want to be that person anymore. And somebody says, you know, you've been bitchy. Like if somebody calls you out on your own stuff, you can't deny that anymore and say, you know what, you're right. I know me. I know I have moods and I know I can be bitchy. And if I sit there and say to the other person when they're calling me out on it, oh, you're being moody, you're being a bitch. And if I say, oh, no, I'm not, I'm lying to myself
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
lying to them. And I have to say to them, you know what, you're right. You're right. I have been that person. I have been a
And
jealous person. I have been an envious person in my life. I've been mean spirited. I've been angry. Yup. That's absolutely true.
no,
But here's the catch. It's done. If you're saying I don't want to be that person anymore, and that person's calling you out and say you're right, and I don't want to be that person anymore. They keep harping on it. You say, but here's the deal. I don't want to be that person anymore. I can't change the past. So but here's who I am today. Here's who I'm showing up as today. And my goal is to stay steadfast on that. So then that becomes their accountability. They either accept you for the new person and learn to let go of the old person,
hmm
or they don't. And that's where you can't. It's just like somebody who did a crime. They did a crime and they got into, they went to jail. They came out and they're like, I'm a different person. I am never going to do this again. That was who I was. And then to come out and people have this expectation of, well, you're a convict, you're ex-con, blah, blah, blah. I'm not that person anymore. I did my time. I've changed. I've educated myself. I'm a different person. For somebody 10 years from, in the future to punish that person for the crime that they committed when they're a different person now, it's not fair,
well,
And
it won't be fair unless you accept it. See, that's what
correct.
we're accepted.
Right.
You come to me anytime in my life and say something, whatever, because you, and I'm gonna say, why are you still living in my past? I don't even live there anymore. Mind your business. I'm just, because those are my boundaries.
Right.
Now, moody, or if I was in a bad mood and you came up and asked me a question, and my face will tell you exactly what I'm feeling, and then I was like, what the hell? And then you're like, why would mood? I'm gonna say I'm not in a good mood. That's it. But I can't apologize for my feelings either, because then I'm lying to myself. I'm gonna
Right.
accept.
Oh no, of course.
You see that I'm in a bad mood, which pretty much you'll know. Don't come ask me a stupid question. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna understand you. I'm not gonna come at you for no reason. But if I'm doing something and then you're gonna approach me anyway, oh, I know you're in a bad mood, but do you know blah blah blah? Man, get the fuck on. No, we're not doing this right now, because this is where I'm at, and we gotta respect people where they're at. Just like I said, shows ago, you gotta meet people where they're at, and then know where to place them in your life. And that's also for me too, because you know what, I am not always going to be a happy-go-lucky person. And I am an upfront, in your face type of person. So I'm the person that you don't come to ask a question and think you're gonna get a lie to make you feel better. I'm not Willy Wonka. I'm not none of that shit. But I'm not also a person that's gonna apologize for. I don't sit in my feelings all day. So if I'm going through something in that moment, and I'll even tell people, like don't even come near me. Like my kids know when I'm not feeling good, when I'm sick or I'm mad, don't come to me, don't ask me how I'm doing, none of that. So those boundaries have been set with my immediate family forever. But if someone's coming up to me and I'm feeling right, I'll put my hand up, like not right now. And then you still want to cross my boundary, then you're asking to get wounded. And that's just how it is. Because if I'm telling you stop, hold up, then that's how it is. Because I'm letting you know, don't come any further. Don't even ask me. Don't talk to me. And you still do it, then who is looking to get wounded or to get insulted or whatever? And I'm sorry. And that's just how it is. You gotta respect me where I'm at. I'm Margarita. And I have my boundaries. And they're solid. And my foundation is solid. So do not cross my boundaries because you feel like I'm still going to ask her. Then every choice has a consequence.
Yep. Yep. So remember, I mean, remember that expression, never lie to yourself. And you say it in Spanish.
Nunca te engañes.
Say it over and over again. And this is what we want you to work on for the entire year. Ask yourself, am I lying to myself? Not saying, am I living my truth? Am I lying to myself?
Hmm?
What is it that I still need to work on? Why does this still bother me? What am I lying to myself? What am I avoiding in my life? What am I lying to myself about? What am I distracting myself? What am I lying to myself about? And then we're going to get into later on in, as the months progress. Once again, we're going to be talking about, it's one thing to acknowledge the lies, but sometimes that's where people get stuck. They'll say, well, I know I'm like this. I know I'm like this. And then they go nowhere after that.
You
So
gotta
next
practice.
month, we're going to be talking about all about love. Next month's going to be all, February is just the love month. And then March will end up, we haven't decided what March is, but it's most likely going to be all about action again. It's about taking, understanding self in January and not lying to yourself, the awakening. What do you know about yourself?
Yes.
Loving yourself in February and others unconditionally. And then in March, what actions are we going to be taking? Like to say, okay, I know this about myself. I love myself unconditionally. And what am I going to do about this? Because like
Yeah.
I'll admit, like one thing I will not lie to myself about is I'm not very good at business. I'm just not. And when people say, oh well, in personal development, oh you shouldn't lie, you shouldn't say stuff like that because if you say you're not good in business, then it's true. I'm like, but it is true. Like I know I'm not. I'm a creator. I'm better at sitting down and creating. I'm not good at saying, okay, uh, I'm not good at running the business. That's why I've always wanted to find that person that says, hey, I don't want to be in the front like you, but I'm really good at running business. And then we become a team. I'm a good team player. And I'm going to assume that I know Gladiator Guru's phone was running out of charge. So we might have to end without her. So I love all these statements though. All right. Accountability is acknowledging past mistakes and failures with maturity, knowing that they are not the same person. Absolutely. It's up to me to put it in the work. Self accountability is important. Yes. Here's the thing that Nunca te engañes means is that if you say, I did this, but and you give an excuse, that's lying to yourself. Accountability means I have to accept this. I'm accepting my life for the way it is. I made these choices and they weren't the best choices. I'm working to fix that, but I made that choice because it's one thing to fix bad choices and mistakes. There are a few out there, but it's one thing to continue to make excuses and change the story of the choice that you made to fit. It's hard enough to sit there and say, you know what, I did this, I made this choice because I was very selfish and I didn't give a shit about anybody else but me. And now I'm trying to make up for that because it wasn't okay. I've known plenty of people who've made very, very selfish choices affecting a lot of other people, not giving an absolute rat's ass about it, but then changing the story and saying, well, I want to make amends for what I did, but still not willing to admit how bad what they did was. They won't talk about it with the people that were involved. And that's still lying to yourself because especially when it's affecting people that love you, that's really being vulnerable. When you can be vulnerable with the people when you've made bad choices that affected other people. But you can explain the reasoning behind it. They may not agree with it, but that's on them. So ownership is power. Exactly. Ownership is power. Excuses are lies. So, all right. So I'm assuming that Gladiator Guru, let me see. She put, okay. So just want to thank everybody for coming on today. And I'm actually going to do Gladiator. I hope she doesn't get mad, but I'm going to do her closeout because I love her closeout. We cannot close the show out without that. So we will be back on Tuesday. And what were we talking about on Tuesday? We're talking about removing the guardrail. We're going to be talking about awareness, fearlessness, cultivating self-trust. So you want to be here for that. Remember, this is January is the awakening. We are now on season 5 of Viva Cafe con Leche, and we're very happy that you are here. So thank you so much for coming on today. So from the Badass Buddha, have a great weekend. Implement your Nunca te engañes, not lying to yourself. Never lie to yourself. From the Badass Buddha, remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary. And from the Gladiator Guru, breathe in the beauty and breathe out the bullshit. Namaste, everyone. Have a great weekend. See you Tuesday.